If you take vitamin D because you heard it protects your heart, prevents cancer, or keeps your bones from breaking, the largest, best-designed trials say it doesn't do any of that on its own. And if you've heard you need K2 alongside it to keep calcium out of your arteries, there's a trial that tested exactly that claim directly. I'll tell you what it found. That doesn't mean none of this matters. It means what these supplements actually do and what they've been sold as doing are two different things. Let me tell you why I'm making this video. It happened in my own house. My wife had real pain in her knees and legs. Her doctor prescribed a combination tablet: calcium, D3, and K2. Within a while, she told me the pain had improved. Not a study, just what she reported. But I watched it happen. So I started taking D3 and K2 myself, without asking a doctor first, just because it seemed sensible after watching her and considering my age. Here's the honest part. I haven't felt anything. Which makes sense. I didn't have knee or leg pain to begin with. Neither of us had our vitamin D levels tested. For my wife, her doctor made that call. For me, I'm at the age where a low, sensible daily dose is generally considered fine on its own. And I had no pain to begin with, so of course I didn't notice anything. What job are these two nutrients actually doing in your body? Vitamin D's main role is calcium. It's what lets your intestines absorb the calcium you eat and helps your kidneys hold on to it. Without enough vitamin D, your body can be eating plenty of calcium and still not use most of it. Vitamin K2's job is different. It activates two specific proteins, one linked to bone mineralization, one linked to regulating calcium in soft tissue, like artery walls. That mechanism is real. What's not established is the assumption people usually make next, that taking extra K2 measurably prevents osteoporosis or artery calcification in practice. That's what the trials leader in this video test directly. Think of vitamin D as how much fuel is in the tank. K2 is the fuel line, whether that fuel gets routed to where the engine can use it. Two separate questions. How much do you have, and where does it go? Real deficiency in either of these has real, documented consequences. Vitamin D deficiency, when significant, sets off a chain reaction. Less calcium absorbed, blood calcium drops, your body pulls more parathyroid hormone into circulation, and that hormone pulls calcium out of your bones to compensate. Long enough, and the bones weaken. The condition is called osteomalacia, soft bones, causing real bone pain, muscle weakness, and fatigue. Most mild deficiency has no symptoms at all, which is why it goes unnoticed for years. And this is genuinely common after 50. Your skin's ability to make vitamin D from sunlight declines substantially with age, dropping to roughly a quarter by around 70. In the US, an estimated 61% of older adults are deficient by standard clinical thresholds. Here's the part that isn't controversial at all. If a blood test shows you're genuinely deficient, correcting that with vitamin D works. Levels come back up, the chain reaction reverses, and symptoms improve. Standard, well-established medicine. This is the single most useful thing in this video. Correcting a real deficiency is worth doing. What's not settled, and what the rest of this video is about, is whether taking extra vitamin D and K2 when you're already at a normal level gives you extra protection against cancer, heart disease, or fractures. That's the claim behind most of the marketing. It's also the claim the largest trials didn't confirm. For general prevention, current guidance is simple. Adults 50 to 70 should get 600 IU of vitamin D daily. Over 70, 800 IU. Correcting a real diagnosed deficiency is different and calls for a higher doctor-supervised dose. And the instinct to get tested at 50 is actually wrong. The current guideline advises against routine testing for generally healthy adults, even with risk factors like obesity. Testing makes sense when a doctor suspects a real problem, not as an automatic screen. For safety, the number to know is 4,000 IU a day, the actual upper limit for routine use, not 10,000. Well above that for a sustained period is how you get real toxicity: high blood calcium, nausea, confusion, kidney damage. K2 has no established upper limit because normal doses appear very low risk. That's different from no such thing as too much. One warning that matters more than dosing: if you're on a blood thinner like warfarin, don't touch your K2 dose without talking to your doctor first. One thing worth saying plainly: none of this is a reason to stop a reasonable dose you're already taking. A doctor-recommended dose or a real reason like limited sun exposure is exactly the sensible use case here. This video pushes back on chasing extra protection, not on taking something sensible. If you're unsure which applies to you, ask your doctor rather than quitting on your own. Now for the part that's been oversold, where the marketing and the evidence pull apart. The largest, best-designed trial on this, VITAL. Nearly 26,000 people over 5 years tested whether vitamin D reduces cancer and cardiovascular events. It didn't reduce invasive cancer incidents or major cardiovascular events versus placebo. And fractures, the benefit most people assume is the safest bet, turn out to be the most surprising part. 2 separate meta-analyses found no reduction in fracture risk in the general, non-deficient population. USPSTF's current recommendation gives vitamin D a grade D against using it for preventing falls in older adults, with a broader draft pending that would extend that to fractures too. Here's the exact distinction this whole video is built on. Those null results were found specifically in adults already replete with vitamin D at the start. VITAL plus 2 other major trials, over 30,000 people combined. These are results from topping up people who weren't actually low. A very different experiment from correcting real deficiency, which we already showed does work. Now, K2. Its own positive evidence exists, but it follows the same shape. A 2013 trial, 244 postmenopausal women, 3 years, MK7, slowed bone density decline at the spine and hip versus placebo. But a separate, similarly designed 3-year trial in women with osteopenia, an earlier stage of bone loss, at a higher dose, found no difference at all. And a larger 2015 meta-analysis of 19 trials found the bone density benefit concentrated specifically in women who already had osteoporosis, not the general population. Line up all 3. Healthy women, no benefit. Osteopenia, no benefit. Full osteoporosis, real benefit. Same pattern as everything else in this video. There's also a 2025 spinal fusion surgery study showing a benefit from combined K2 and D3. But the K2 dose was a high pharmaceutical dose, not the kind on a typical bottle, and the study wasn't randomized. Interesting for a narrow surgical population, not evidence for ordinary supplementation. And the specific claim most people have actually heard, that K2 keeps calcium out of your arteries, was tested directly in the population it matters most for. The AVADEC trial, nearly 400 men with known aortic valve calcification, found no significant slowing of calcification over 2 years, even though the K2 biomarkers were working exactly as expected.
Real mechanism, a mixed bone picture that only clearly favors K2 in existing osteoporosis, a narrow surgical result, and a negative artery trial. Same shape as the D3 story, plausible biology, and the flagship trial found less than the marketing promised. Go back to that tank and fuel line. Rumming it empty genuinely damages the engine. That's real deficiency, worth fixing. Topping it up past full doesn't make the car go faster. That's the oversold claim. And K2 is the fuel line. Even with a full tank, the fuel still has to get routed to the right place. AVADEC checked exactly that in the men where it mattered most, and it didn't change the outcome. So, the honest version in one breath. If you're actually deficient, fixing it works. If you're already on a sensible, doctor-approved, or well-reasoned dose, keep doing what's working. This isn't a reason to stop. What isn't supported is piling on extra, hoping for bonus protection the best trials didn't find. Fix what's broken, keep what's sensible. Don't chase what isn't there. This isn't medical advice for your specific situation. I'm sharing published research, and your doctor knows your health. A blood test and a conversation with your doctor settles it. Don't guess. If this helped you make sense of what's actually worth taking and what isn't, hit subscribe. Every week, I'm digging into one more piece of health advice you've heard 100 times and checking whether the research actually backs it up.